All right, today we're going to dive into what is, without a doubt, one of the most intense and honestly pivotal periods in the life of the Prophet Muhammad. It's a story all about staggering loss, but also about how hope can claw its way out of utter despair to build a whole new destiny.
And I want you to really let that sink in. This isn't some metaphor, I mean literally. For 3 straight years, this was the reality for the Prophet, his family, his entire clan. Imagine, babies crying from a hunger their mothers just couldn't fix. People were just exhausted, surviving on whatever they could possibly find. This was all the result of this brutal social and economic boycott right in the heart of Mecca.
So how did it get to this point? I mean, what happened? Well, by the 7th year of his prophethood, the leaders in Mecca were getting really nervous. Despite all their threats and intimidation, the number of Muslims just kept on growing. So they decided they needed a drastic plan, something that would completely isolate the clans that had sworn to protect the Prophet.
And when we say isolate, the totality of it is just staggering. I mean, look at this. These weren't just, suggestions. This was a formal treaty, written down, and get this, hung inside the Kaaba itself to give it the sacred, unbreakable weight. The goal was brutally simple: starve them into submission and force them to hand over the Prophet to be killed.
And what's so fascinating is that right at the heart of this huge conflict, you've basically got a family drama playing out. On one side, there's his uncle, Abu Talib. Now, he wasn't a Muslim, but he was family, and he was the Prophet's protector. He went to these extreme lengths, even having other people sleep in the Prophet's bed at night just in case assassins came. And then, on the complete other side, you have his own brother, Abu Lahab, who sided with the Quraysh and was actively trying to make his own family suffer.
I mean, Abu Lahab would personally go out to meet the merchant caravans coming into Mecca. He'd use his own money to outbid everyone and drive up the prices so high that his own relatives couldn't afford even the basics. The contrast here is just staggering. While Abu Lahab is spending his fortune to starve his own family, the Prophet's wife, Khadijah, who had been one of the wealthiest people in Mecca, was spending every last dime she had just trying to get food to her people.
So, after 3 just agonizing years, the boycott finally collapses. It was a mix of some people in Mecca having a conscience and, well, a miraculous event where termites apparently ate the treaty document itself. It looked like they could finally breathe again. But that relief was incredibly short-lived. The period that came next would bring 2 of the most devastating personal losses of his entire life.
First, his uncle Abu Talib died. This was the man who was his political shield, his physical protector against all the hostility from Quraysh. And then, just a few days later, his wife Khadijah passed away too. She was so weakened by the years of the boycott. I mean, this was his first believer, his closest friend, his absolute rock for 25 years. In the span of just a few days, both pillars of his support system were just gone.
And it's for this reason that this period became known in Islamic history as al-Huzn, which translates to the year of sorrow. It's easy to see why. Without Abu Talib's protection, the attacks from the Quraysh just got way worse. He was left more vulnerable than he had ever been, both emotionally and physically. Okay, so Mecca has become intolerably hostile. What do? Well, the Prophet started looking for a new home for his message. He set his sights on the city of Taif. It's about 120 kilometers away. He walked the entire distance with his adopted son, Zayd, and he went there with so much hope, thinking, hey, if Taif accepts Islam, this could be a brand new start. But what he found in Taif, it was his absolute darkest hour. The leaders there didn't just reject his message, they openly mocked him viciously. And then they stirred up the town's kids and troublemakers to literally chase him out of the city, pelting him with stones. For over 2 kilometers, he and Zayd were just mercilessly stoned, leaving them battered, bleeding, their hope completely shattered. He would later call this the hardest day of my life.
So after finally escaping and finding refuge in a vineyard, just exhausted and wounded, he makes this incredibly powerful and vulnerable prayer. And listen to this. He says, "O Allah, to you alone I complain of my weakness. As long as you are not angry with me, I do not care." This is a moment of just complete submission. He's not asking for revenge. He's not even really asking for relief. All he cares about is his relationship with God. It just shows this profound faith, even at his absolute lowest point.
And it's right here, in this moment of absolute darkness, that a supreme honor was given to him. After being so brutally rejected by the people on earth, he was about to be welcomed into the heavens. God was about to give him a kind of comfort and reassurance that no human being ever could. And this event is what's known as the Isra and Mi'raj. It happens in two parts. First, the Isra, which was this miraculous night journey from Mecca all the way to Jerusalem, where he led all the previous prophets in prayer. And then the second part, the Mi'raj, an ascension up through the heavens right into the divine presence itself. This was just this profound gift, a spiritual healing for his wounded heart and a huge confirmation of his mission after so much rejection on earth.
So, even though he was spiritually reinvigorated, that earthly problem didn't just disappear. He still had no safe place for his community. But now the tide was finally about to turn. During the annual pilgrimage season back in Mecca, a chance encounter would end up planting the seeds for a completely new future.
So as he was presenting his message to the different tribes, he happens to meet a small group, just 6 men from a city called Yathrib. Now, the Jewish tribes in their city had often talked about a prophet who was coming. So when these guys heard Muhammad's message, they looked at each other and basically said, wait a minute, this has to be him. We can't let anyone else beat us to it. And right then and there, they accepted Islam. And from that one small spark, the momentum just exploded. Those 6 men went back home and spread the word. The very next year, 12 men came and pledged their loyalty. And the year after that, a whole delegation of 75 men and women came and made a second, much more serious pledge, to protect the Prophet as if he were one of their own family. A new home had been found. Yathrib would soon become known as Medina, the city of the Prophet.
And that really brings us to our final big question. I mean, think about it. The journey from being brutally stoned in Taif to being enthusiastically welcomed by the people of Yathrib, it's just staggering. It really forces you to ask, what is it that turns a moment of complete and total rejection into the very foundation for a new world? It's just a powerful lesson in faith, in resilience, and in the wild, unpredictable nature of destiny.